Trending, presented by Tim Daly Nissan, part of the Tim Daly Auto Group, serving Utah since 1968. Listen to this, all of you watching and listening across BYU Sports Nation. The line from our friends in the desert for BYU's game Friday night against Cincinnati started at 3.5 in favor, or went up to 3.5 in favor of BYU, okay? Yeah. BYU was a 3.5-point favorite.
Yeah.
It feels like
makes sense.
A few moments ago. Well, guess what? Now Cincinnati, on some lines, is a 2-point favorite. Everybody is leaning heavily Cincinnati, so the Bearcats are now a road favorite in Provo on a short week on Friday night. Moving 5 points in a few days is wild. You rarely see this.
I know why.
BYU is now, like we said, an underdog again for a third consecutive week. 2-point
We love
underdog.
being a dog.
Jarom, is this cause for concern that the line has swung so much that now BYU is a home underdog?
The only logical explanation is Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, Swifties. That is the only logical explanation. That all of them have somehow become gamblers.
It all makes sense
all
now.
The Swifties gonna gamble. Work that into your lyrics, Taylor. No, it's a little weird that it's swung this much.
5 points in a few days.
What it means is a lot of people think Cincinnati are gonna cover and/or win this game. ESPN FPI has a really good shot for Cincinnati to win, like 57%, and that's been a couple weeks ago leading up to this. But BYU has a better win than Cincinnati. I know Cincinnati put up a fight against Oklahoma. Oklahoma won that game 20-6, slowed them down, but didn't score enough, didn't run the ball in the same way. Some of the Bearcats stats are bloated a little bit by beating up Eastern Kentucky. I didn't even know there was an Eastern Kentucky. I knew about Western Kentucky, the Hilltoppers, of course, who came here in 2020. Cincinnati lost a rivalry game to Miami of Ohio. And so a lot of Cincinnati right now is based on beating Pitt, who doesn't look that good, and
they're
beating
1-3.
Eastern Kentucky, right?
Pitt's 1-3.
Bill Jerkovic's not been good there. SP plus rank, how about that? They're basically the same team in terms of rankings. Obviously different in what they do, but the fact that the line has swung that much, was it an injury? No, there's not a single player that would influence the line by 5 points in this game.
5 points.
If Emory Jones was out or Keaton Slovis was out, that would not swing at 5 points. There is not that kind of player in this game. But I'm okay. Anytime BYU is a dog. If you told me BYU was a dog the rest of the season, I'd be fine with that because BYU loves being undervalued. And so let's see what BYU can do. Certainly, this is a tight one. I have said there's no way BYU loses this game. I will die on that hill because I think BYU is going to bring it Friday night. There's going to be juice. They're going to figure it out in the run game and be a little bit better than, 61 yards is not asking for a lot. Can BYU rush for 80 or 120? I don't know. The D-line's really good for Cincinnati, like we've talked about. They've got speed in the secondary. Again, this is a group that's produced Kobe Bryant and Sauce Gardner the last couple years in the NFL.
Not to be
but they're not those guys.
The other Kobe Bryant that had a major impactful play for Kansas.
Yeah. So this line is it's weird, but I like that BYU's a dog because BYU just functions better as a team in this space.
Are they in the details so much that they see that Cincinnati has one of the best run defenses in the country and BYU has one of the worst rush offenses in the country?
Bettors are in the number. Oh, yeah, okay. Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
That feels like it is a factor.
But that didn't change from
5 points.
That didn't change this week, though, Spence. Like, that's been the same since Saturday afternoon.
Like, are the Swifties all betting Cincinnati because of Travis Kelce?
I'm telling you, there might be something there. How many of them are betting?
Hey, I'll say this. BYU fans, and a few of you have reached out to me on social media and said, hey, I'm not liking the trend of this.
Yeah.
Why should I feel okay about BYU? I'll give you one reason. While Cincinnati's run defense is awesome, Jarom, they give up some ground in the pass game. They play, on tape at least, against Oklahoma, and maybe this is by design, a little soft on the edges in the pass game.
Everyone does that against Oklahoma, though. They're scared of getting beat, and then the quick throws. Oklahoma's tough. Like, Oklahoma should be the exception to any pass defense rule.
This maybe benefits Keaton Slovis and pass happy by requirement, maybe BYU.
Yeah.
So there's something there. Like Cincinnati, again, excellent defense. Outstanding in the front seven. there may be more opportunity, like BYU had against Kansas, to throw a bunch against Cincinnati.
Can I validate that point with the number?
Please do.
Cincinnati is allowing 8 yards per attempt.
Yes.
This is 101st.
They play soft coverage through 4 games.
Can BYU do what it does best right now on offense, which is chuck it?
So pass to set up the run feels like a very, very likely thing for BYU on Friday night. And that's okay, because that plays into the wheelhouse.
We don't care how BYU gets it done.
Just win. Who cares?
I don't care about
as ugly as possible.
Welcome to the Power 5 era. The style points
they don't matter.
Don't matter anymore.
Wins and losses matter.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's one thing that BYU fans can maybe rest their confidence and laurels in is, okay, yeah, Cincinnati does give up some passing yards. The other thing I'll add to why this line may have swung, aside from the Swifties, and BYU's run offense matching up against Cincinnati's run defense, is just the added injuries from the Kansas game. Like, it's stacking up now. So BYU, to recap, on offense, no Cody Epps. I don't expect him to play against Cincinnati this week. Aiden Robbins, not going to play against Cincinnati this week.
Nope.
Waylon Lapuaho, based on my conversation with Aaron Roderick, feels doubtful on the offensive line to play against Cincinnati. Then you look at the defense. Ben Bywater is a massive, massive piece of BYU's
Huge
defense.
question mark there.
Okay. I'm going off of what I witnessed on the sideline in Lawrence, Kansas, when he came off, and then how he interacted with his family after the game. I wasn't in on the specific conversations, but talked to Jay Hill, just reading body language and all of that. I would be shocked if Ben plays against Cincinnati.
That's a tough one, given the way Cincinnati runs the ball.
Don't expect him to play against Cincinnati. So no Ben Bywater, no Cody Epps, no Aiden Robbins, no Waylon Lapuaho. Talon Alfrey is still out with his broken collarbone, and BYU could certainly use him.
A couple weeks away still.
Parker Kingston's going to be okay, but he won't have practiced all week, so I don't expect to see him. BYU feels okay at wide receiver.
Yeah, I'm good with that group.
But the point remains, this is where BYU's depth is, for the first time this season, really going to be tested, especially losing Ben Bywater. That hurts. So that all maybe factors into why this line is swinging so much. But I think you might be on something with the Swifties. I'm not kidding.
In the end, who cares?
Travis Kelce.
About the line.
Travis Kelce pushed the line. He doesn't even play for Cincinnati.
He played for Cincinnati, yeah. Topic 2. What is more important for BYU to beat Cincinnati? Slow down Cincinnati's rushing attack, or that BYU needs to rush the ball more effectively?
Ooh, let me channel my inner Bronco Mendenhall, Nick Howell, Kalani Sitake, Sione Puha, all football coaches everywhere nationwide for time and all eternity. It's stop the run. You want to win a game, stop the run. Yeah, you want to establish it, but Cincinnati's saying the same thing. No, first thing is you've got to stop the run. BYU has to figure out a way to slow down Cincinnati's rushing attack because they're putting up over 200 a game on the ground.
215.
215 yards per game on the ground from Cincinnati. It starts and ends with stop the run. If they can't run the ball with backs that are super physical, and I mean, they just want to like wear BYU down and grind. And I mentioned earlier this week, they run like Kansas's big power back Haisha. Like that's kind of how all of Cincinnati's backs are.
It's Ohio versus the world, as Ryan Day told us. So Cincinnati
part of Ohio.
That, apparently.
Can BYU stop the run? To me, that feels like the obvious start and end for this, because if Cincinnati cannot establish a ground game, and Emory Jones runs a lot too, their quarterback.
Oh, he runs a lot.
He runs a ton.
He's the second leading rusher at 47 a game.
So it's that is the focus and the central point of the Bearcats offense. Stop the run, BYU wins the game, maybe handily.
What would stop look like to you?
Under 150 yards.
Under 150.
Under 150.
If you told me they're sub 150, I say, yep, BYU's
going to win the game.
BYU 94% chance or something.
Yeah. Yeah, they're gonna run more than they're gonna throw for sure.
Yeah.
So you hold Cincinnati to under 150, and maybe BYU is able to stay on the field longer and sustain some drives, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Then I think that's kind of the formula, I believe, for BYU to win this game. How do you feel about it?
The Bearcats, with the C, have run the ball 50 more times than they've passed it. I do think Cincinnati does a good job of controlling the clock. They're one of the best time possession teams in the country. They're number 1 in the Big 12.
You can do that when you run so well.
When you run the ball effectively, you control the game. You really do. And BYU is going to be reliant on being able to pass the ball because BYU doth stinketh at the moment, to me and everyone else, in rushing at the moment. 61 yards per game is 4th lowest in the country. Yards per carry is 5th lowest, 2.2. 10-plus yard rushes. 7 total, 4th lowest. 20-plus is 2, that's 20th lowest. And first downs via rush is 12, which is 3rd lowest. Those aren't good. Can BYU get enough possessions and plays and not play from behind in this game? That's the question. I agree with you that they need to slow down the rushing attack, led by Corey Kiner, who's averaging 82 a game. Emory Jones, Ryan Montgomery's run for 100 as well. So, yeah, and then you have Miles Montgomery also running for 5.6 yards per carry. Man. They have guys. We felt like BYU had guys walking into the season, but Aiden Robbins doesn't seem like he's going to play. This is on LJ Martin. I'm excited to hear your conversation with him from yesterday, and we'll break down kind of what LJ's done really well and whatnot this year. But I agree with you that BYU needs to slow down the Bearcats. But again, back to the line swing and whatnot. I don't know what it is. But 6 or later kickoff, BYU's really good. Can BYU summon that night Coug energy, whatever it is?
There's your second thing to feel really good about.
5-3 since 2019 when kicking at 6 or later. This is at 8:15, of course.
And 15-1 in their last 16 night games.
It's amazing. BYU's 14-13 pre-6 p.m. Causation correlation. I know I'm like the only one really screaming this from the rooftops. I'm not saying BYU plays great because it's night. But I ain't saying it's not either. Like, the way that BYU plays at night is really effective. I think at home, first Big 12 home game, going for the first Big 12 win in conference. I think BYU comes out with the win, and they do enough defensively to give the offense a chance here to throw. And can BYU just have some timely runs? We don't need a lot of yards. Timely runs, like against Arkansas. The 45-yard run was a big play in the game.
Yeah.
BYU didn't do jack squat. Besides that, can you have a couple of those moments?
BYU could run for 100 yards against Cincinnati of all opponents. That would do wonders for the confidence of the team in the offensive line.
Yeah.
That is probably an understatement.
Let's see if they can get it done.
They need something.
I need more.
Feel good.
I need more rushing highlights against Power 5 teams here, because every one of these highlights or lowlights is against Southern Utah and Houston now.
I mean, it's LJ Martin against Arkansas breaking out the big run,
and then
but that's the one, right?
Nothing against Kansas. Yeah, that run was great, but it was against Southern Utah. And now, hey, P5 era. Let's get some P5 highlights here.
Lavelle Edwards Stadium magic. BYU fans show up and show out on Friday night.
They need you.
Because the Cougars are going to need you. As a home underdog. I cannot emphasize this enough.
Vegas doesn't think BYU can do it?
A home underdog. 3rd consecutive at home?
The disrespect. I'd like to know where Lou Holtz is right now.
Our question of the day.
That was so awesome.
BYU can't run the ball.
Run the ball, Brigham.
I don't believe that they can run.
Run the ball.
BYU is a 2-point underdog in Vegas and ESPN's Football Power Index.
Yeah.
So the computers don't like BYU at home.
Not even the numbers like you.
42% chance to win this game according to a computer. ESPN's stupid computer, okay?
You stupid computer.
I love that we're angry at just like mathematical formula.
I'm not actually angry. I'm just excited for being in the Big 12. This is all fun.
Straight up, in your opinion, should BYU be an underdog at home against Cincinnati based on everything you know about the Bearcats and everything that's happened?
Better record, better win, better ingredients, Papa John.
Kyle Nelson on Instagram answers, despite a good defense and passing game, until BYU can prove they have a run game, they are one-dimensional and should be an underdog.
But just because you're one-dimensional doesn't mean you need to be. I disagree. BYU's got a better win, and they have a better record. And, SP Plus is similar. It's like, and BYU's at home. Why isn't BYU a favorite?
I would love to talk to Vegas.
This is just because the money just because the amount of that went to Cincinnati, they're like, oh, okay, let's move it because we've had too much action this direction.
Well, and
that's my understanding
again,
of why that moved.
I don't think it's so much on the odds makers. It's the bettors that are moving it.
Yeah,
right.
Well, it's just smart that they move it because they're like, oh, there's too much action there. We gotta slide this.
It opened as BYU as a home favorite, so the experts said BYU was a 1.5-point favorite
initially,
to begin.
And then the people have essentially forced the odds makers to move the line.
What is wrong with you?
I'm an expert.
Travis Kelce fans and Swifties.
I wouldn't mind it.
At Denton Good on X says, against a team, speaking of Cincinnati, that lost at home to Miami of Ohio.
Yeah.
No, he
Good.
says BYU should not be.
BYU doesn't have a bad loss. They have a better win. Yeah.
Kansas is ranked, by the way.
Oh, by the way.
Kansas is ranked.
Brigham helped in that regard, but yeah.
They play at Texas this week. Very interested to watch that game.
Go
Kansas at
go
Texas.
Jayhawks.
Oh, my goodness.
That's what I say.